welcome back to the Sideline. It has been a minute to say the least. Since a new episode, just a bunch of stuff going on with the end of school and beginning of summer, moving out and everything. But
Yep.
I'm Asher Hire.
I'm Rishi.
Yep. And for this episode, we'll just be going through kind of the Nugget season at first, the little season recap, Jokic's greatness, obviously, and then we'll talk about what they need to do in the offseason, because this is probably the biggest offseason that Tim Connolly has had in this Jokic era, with the two stars coming off of injuries, plus a lot of needs, a lot of better role players to sign or trade for before the season starts. And then we might talk about the current playoffs, what's happening right now a little bit. I think the Sixers and Heat start here in about like 15 minutes. But yeah, we can start with the Nugget season recap, a very up and down season. Like just it's a crazy season in general.
Yeah.
Just with the fact that it was purely Jokic. I mean, this is just a rare season where you just see literally it's just one player like carrying the team.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was definitely a windy road because of that. They started out pretty well, 9-4, November 14th, and then Michael Porter got hurt 9 games in the season. And when Porter got hurt, I know we were talking about, early on in early episodes of us doing this.
Tanking.
We were talking about, hey, we should just tank this season.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way this team can make any noise. I didn't think they were, going to make the playoffs unless they sneak into the play-in.
Yeah. And one other part about this, when MPJ got hurt, when we got the news that he was probably going to be out for the year, Jokic was also injured. Mm-hmm. He hurt his wrist. So it was literally just every role player plus Aaron Gordon out there playing. And they were getting smashed by every team. And that might have been like as dark of a time since Jokic has been here that I can remember, because like there was no hope for anything, because you're like, all right, if we're going to be this bad, Jamal probably isn't going to come back anyway, like this season. There's no point in rushing back MPJ. If Jokic actually has a serious wrist injury, just sit in for the year, give him some rest, let some of the young guys develop, and then just get a high draft pick. But now you're like, they made the playoffs somehow, and they had 48 wins.
I mean, I'm just looking through these games when Jokic was hurt, like versus Chicago at home. Aaron Gordon, the leading scorer. Jeff Green, the leading scorer in back-to-back games. And then Gordon again. I'm pretty sure this is Jeff Green. One of those could be JaMychal, but it's probably Jeff Green.
It's probably Jeff Green.
Yeah, and then Jokic came back, and the team still wasn't, good. They were just hovering around 500 from November 29th up until, January 13th. Like, that's a whole month and a half. They were just hovering around 500. They were 21-19 after beating Portland January 13th. And then things started to change. Jokic really just asserted himself into that MVP conversation, because early on in the season, he was great. But he wasn't really in that, back-to-back MVP conversation.
He was incredibly inefficient. I can remember that. Like, when he came back from his wrist injury, he had a couple of good games, but he was so inefficient. Mm-hmm. And like that really tanked his MVP case early in the year. Like, he was still incredible. And by inefficient, I mean he was at like 45-50% instead of whatever you said, like 58% for the year. And that was like, I remember being very worried at that. I was like, hold on, what's going on? Like, is he actually starting to get worn out by the workload?
Yeah, because his touch was off. I mean, he has those games where his touch is completely off, but I mean, that was like back-to-back games where his touch around the basket was just completely off. But at that same time, Joel Embiid hadn't really started to get going either. Like, I remember the beginning of his season was really rough too.
Yeah.
I mean, he dealt with the whole COVID thing in the beginning of the year too, but But yeah, I mean, he wasn't scoring at the clip he was scoring at last year, and then all of a sudden he began to take off. Jokic began to take off. So really, at that early season, there wasn't a runaway. I mean, it was Steph Curry.
It was Steph and DeRozan. Those were the top two.
Yeah.
And I don't think either of them were top 5 in voting this season, which is crazy. It was so coincidental that both Embiid and Jokic took off at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Like both of them started to get going at the same time. Both of them, I mean, they were both in similar situations with, Embiid having the Ben Simmons thing, Jokic with the MPJ and Jamal. So they both were using like depleted rosters, and they both of the rosters and both of them figured it out at the exact same time. And it was a pretty close MVP race. Like Jokic had 65 first place votes. That's the lowest since 2006, I think I saw. For an MVP winner.
Steve Nash, here we go again.
Yeah.
Of course, they had to say that, but yeah.
Like it was like ultimately it wasn't close because the second and third place votes were really split between Giannis and Embiid. But in terms of first place voting, Jokic was not a runaway favorite by any stretch.
Yeah. I'd also kind of like to talk about, I guess, during this time of the whole Nuggets rise as well was the rise of the rookie Bones Hyland, because I remember he was barely getting any playing time in the beginning of the season. And it was like, dude, like, come on, Michael Malone's doing this again, where he just does not play as young players. After all the praise we heard in training camp, where Malone was actually giving a rookie praise, which is rare. And we were thinking like, oh my God, he's giving a rookie praise. That must, mean he's amazing and that he'll start playing. Of course, he doesn't start playing until, I don't know when, but probably until like the start of December, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's when he started to get like more regular minutes. But no, and it was so clear early in the year that he was gonna help, because I remember he got his first minutes against Cleveland and he looked okay, like the third game of the year or something. He looked good, he looked okay. And then against Minnesota, the one game that Denver did win against Minnesota, he played over Facu in the second half. And you could tell that he helped so much just because of his spacing, his energy, and you could tell immediately that he was going to be a big part of the team. And it's so rare that you see a rookie bring that type of impact immediately. So props to Tim Conley in the front office for somehow getting another steal, because Bones Hyland seems to be one guy who on this roster, if you count, the core 4, he might be the one guy who you're not going to include in a trade, which is insane to think about because he's the 26th pick and he just finished his rookie season. And he might be a guy who's untouchable in trade talks already.
Yeah, I mean, he was just, it was awesome to see his growth throughout the season, just like becoming more of a facilitator at point guard. I mean, his passing was just outstanding considering he averaged like 1 assist in college.
Yeah.
To averaging, I don't know what he averaged, but like some of his passes, especially to the dunker spot, if JaMychal Green was there, if Jeff Green was there, or Gordon, some of those he just whips them with the left hand into the dunker spot. That was amazing. And then even his ability, his speed, and his ability to get to the rim. Obviously you want him to get stronger and be able to finish through defenders more, but his speed allowed him to get to the basket before defenders did. And that was really fun to watch. I think his breakout game, I guess, was against LA January 15th, where he led the team in scoring with 27. And then obviously later on there was that Philly game that, he pretty much won the game for the Nuggets at Philly. And then some of these games against the Warriors, in the playoff round, which we'll talk about later. He obviously he was great in that game to avoid the sweep and to avoid elimination. He had those 3 big threes in a row. Just the energy he brings to the crowd is awesome. And I mean, he just reminds me a lot of like, it seems like there's one of these players in like every draft class where it's the speedster, like a Tyrese Maxey, Emmanuel Quickly. I mean, I don't, I'm not saying I don't want Bones Hyland to just turn to Emmanuel Quickly because he kind of fell off a little bit.
I think he could be much better than Emmanuel Quickly.
But he kind of reminds me just of those speedsters who can also shoot.
Yep.
and he's just a real weapon on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of a young Jamal Murray, but it was crazy because he's way more consistent than Jamal Murray was his rookie season. Jamal Murray's rookie season was, he started off about as bad as you could ever have a start to a season. And he really started to come on late in the year. And the fearlessness that he has, the way he plays to the crowd, the amount of confidence that he has, all of it, those are the mental and things that you need to become good in the NBA and be good when you are undersized like he is. And you're never going to get a perfect player at pick 26. There's always going to be flaws. Like he is undersized. He's not a good defender. But he has room to grow into all of those things. And I'm so excited for his growth to see next season in an expanded role, depending on what happens with the bench and stuff. But he's going to be the one mainstay for that.
I forgot even like Jordan Poole is a guy like that too.
Yep. Yeah.
It's these like guys that go in the late first round who have talent. They just need to put it together. But they have the speed and the shooting. And yeah, Bones reminds me of Poole a little bit. Reminds me of all those guys I said.
Yeah. His shiftiness, it reminds me of Poole a lot now that you mentioned that. Because he breaks down defenders so easily. There was rarely a time where he got like locked by somebody.
Right.
He would always be able to get by them. It was just a matter of if he was going to be able to finish at the rim.
And to be that guy to come off the bench and be a spark plug, or maybe he even starts in the future with the eventual departure of Will Barton. He is undersized, so I don't know if they move Murray to shooting guard or something, but
I think
off the bench would be great.
Yeah, off the bench he'd be perfect, but I think if they do move Bones in the starting lineup, he'd be a perfect point guard complement to Jamal, because Jamal, I think most Nuggets fans know he's best when he's playing the 2 guard, because that's what he was coming out of college, and we tried to turn him into a point guard, and he's grown into a pretty good point guard, but you don't need a main facilitator when you have Jokic. So Murray playing off the ball, that's how in the Utah series, how he went completely ballistic, because the guy who was starting alongside him was Monte Morris, and Monte was the main point guard in that series. So him playing off the ball is best for him. So I think it'd be good. It's just the only problem is that backcourt defense is going to be really, really rough. And you don't really have the defenders alongside those two. You have Aaron Gordon, but MPJ coming off an injury, you don't know what he's going to look like. Obviously, you can't rely on Jokic to go clamp a wing or something like that. So it'll be interesting. But offensively, if they start that lineup, that's unstoppable. Like legitimately unstoppable.
That's so fun. But yeah, just going into the Warriors Nuggets series. Really the Nuggets were more competitive than I initially expected. Especially after game 1. Game 1 was horrible.
Yeah.
Game 2 was pretty bad too, but they were up in game 2 at Golden State. They had a 12-point lead in the second quarter, and then, it's the Warriors, and they just started to make shots, and the Nuggets couldn't make shots. So that happens. And then game 3 at Denver, they really should have won that game.
Mm-hmm.
Game 4, they did win. And then game 5 back at Golden State, that was competitive too. So, I'm proud of how they played and how Jokic evolved throughout the series, going against one of the smartest defenders in the league in league history, against Draymond, who Draymond kind of had Jokic figured out a little bit in the first 2 games. And then after that, Jokic just went.
The last 3 games of the series, he had like 37 in game 3. He had 30 plus in game 4. He had 30 in game 5. Like, he completely figured out Draymond Green to the point where they had to switch Draymond off of him at points. Yeah. That just points to the greatness of Nikola Jokic. The fact that he was able to figure out Draymond Green that fast, was incredible. His 3-point shot came back in those last 3 games. I think is huge. I think that's the key to his game. When he's hitting his threes, there's literally no way you can stop him. You can't sag off of him. If you close out, he's going to drive by you. He's going to hit a person in the corner. He's going to hit a floater. Like, that 3-point shot is truly the key to him being like an all-timer offensively. But yeah, the Nuggets, like they were more competitive than I like. After the first 2 games, I was like, yeah, this is a sweep, like 100%. But those last 3 games of the series were extremely competitive, and they could have gone either way. Like, Golden State probably should have won game 4, if we're being honest. They probably should have won game 4, considering how bad Steph shot and how bad Poole played that game. But the Nuggets should have won game 3. They probably should have won game 5. So like, there's so much. There was not a lot of room for error. And I think that series was kind of an encapsulation of the Nuggets regular season as a whole. They were very competitive with good teams, but they just didn't have quite enough talent to pull through. And that happened a lot. You know, they played Phoenix 3 times this season. They beat them the first time, which was probably like the highlight of the season at this point, because they beat Phoenix.
First game of the year.
And then they got blown out without Jokic, MPJ, and Murray. But then the last meeting of the season, they were very competitive with them.
That game was just so no team could get a stop.
No, it was 140-130. That was the final score. Like you score 130 points and you lose by 10. Like it was just insane. But like they were competitive with those teams. They're competitive with. Were they competitive with Boston in Boston? Because I know we got destroyed here, but I'm pretty sure they were competitive with Boston in Boston.
That was Derek White's first game in Boston.
Yeah.
Let me try to find it.
It was Bones started. I remember that.
108, 102.
Yeah. But they did that. They were competitive with the Jazz the whole season. They were competitive with Dallas the whole season. They were competitive with a lot of teams that were above them in the standings, but they just weren't able to pull through. They didn't have enough talent, and that is exactly what happened in the Warriors series. So, I'm proud of how it worked. I'm proud of Will Barton. He had a few rough games, but he did have big shots and he did make big plays. Aaron Gordon, I'm so proud of Aaron Gordon, how he bounced back out of the first 2 games, because he was probably the worst player on the court those first couple games. And then he really, really showed out the last 3 games. He showed what he's capable of. So really like that. The bench played much better. DeMarcus Cousins, we haven't even mentioned him. He kind of saved the Nuggets bench, him and Bones Highland. And he had that game 5 was like insane. Like that was as close to prime Boogie as we've seen that game 5. So it was a rough series to watch, and it was the worst possible matchup for Denver. Like they could have played any other team and they would have been fine.
I mean, considering, I guess we can kind of start getting into offseason stuff, but I think the real issue with the Nuggets in this Warriors season, or in the Warriors series, was that lack of length defensively. I mean, they were constantly backdoor cuts by Poole, by Curry, by Thompson, Wiggins, and Draymond looked like the best facilitator, like LeBron out there.
Yeah.
I mean, diamond everyone up like Magic Johnson, I guess. And then you look at him in this Memphis series, and he had a horrible game last night. And he's been lackluster this entire series offensively, because I think of the length of the Grizzlies and them not allowing those backdoor cuts. And Draymond tries to fit them in there. Like he tried to fit so many in there last night. Where
he had 3 straight turnovers at one point last game on plays that worked against Denver.
Passer, and just kept turning the ball over because of the Grizzlies' length with all those role players that they have.
Yep.
Compared to the Nuggets, where it's like you got Bones guarding Poole, who and all stuff like matchups like that.
So Bones guarding Steph because Steph was coming off the bench, so they had Bones on Steph, which was horrible.
I mean, I think that was the worst possible matchup. And the best possible matchup for the Warriors. Warriors have gotten really lucky this playoff run. With injuries and with matchups. I mean, we'll see what happens with the Warriors, but getting in the offseason stuff, that is definitely, I think the number one need for the Nuggets is that either a point of attack defender who has that length, or just guys who can play like this rover role to limit those cuts, and to take weight off of Jokic's shoulders defensively at the rim, because he's great and he's in the right spots a lot of the times, but everyone knows rim protection is a problem. But if you get these rover guys who can stop those cuts and stop the drives, you won't need to worry about Jokic's lack of rim protection. So I think those are the biggest needs for sure.
And Jokic, I think as a last line of defense, he's very good because his hands are great. They might be one of the best in the league. He knows exactly where to be. And he's great at contesting shots. I'm pretty sure he had the highest percentage of shots contested in the NBA this season. But obviously, like, he's a good last line of defense. But the problem with the Nuggets this season, they didn't have a first line, so he was the only thing stopping someone from getting to the rim. And he was phenomenal defensively at the beginning of the year. Like, he was playing at like an all defense level at the start of the season. When guys like PJ Dozier was healthy, Mike Porter Jr. was playing very well defensively at the start of the year. Will Barton, before he started to wear it down, he was
Barton's defense at the beginning of the year was amazing.
He was phenomenal. But then Dozier gets hurt, MPJ gets hurt, Barton starts to wear down, and then sooner or later, Jokic is the only guy defensively there. So 100% agree with you. Point of attack defender, one more guy in that starting lineup defensively would be perfect. Size, just need more size. Denver in the backcourt, I think Jamal's fine size-wise, but Will Barton, he's undersized for a 2. Bones obviously is undersized. You had Facu starting for a portion of the year and had him playing for a majority of the season. He's 100% undersized. Bryn Forbes, who you traded for, undersized. So you definitely just need bigger guys, more true wings. That Denver really does not have a single wing on the roster besides Davon Reed.
And even he is, undersized at 6'4".
Yeah, like he's not a true wing.
I mean, he's not like a 6'6", 6'7", 6'8".
Yeah, you just need somebody like that. I think that would just be perfect.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as I kept saying, that we were one Robert Covington away from a dynasty. He literally signed like 3 days after the Clippers get eliminated.
Yeah, I literally, like, we have this like thing of all the things we're talking about, and on the top 3 agents for Denver to target, I had Robert Covington as the number 1 option. And like I had to backspace him out. I was just like crying when I did it. Like, God, he would have been perfect. He wouldn't be a starter. He would not be, a main guy, but he would have been the perfect person because he was pretty rough in Portland. Once he got traded to the Clippers, he was shooting great. His defense was phenomenal.
I mean, that's who I think that when I talk about the whole Rover thing, like, I think he would be the perfect.
That's the person who pops up in your head when you think Rover. Yeah. Like, it's just him.
He's not really the point, like, get in your face kind of point of attack defender like that, but just being that backline guy who stops cuts with all his length, and he is pretty good on the ball too. So yeah, he would have been perfect, but unfortunately, I mean, the Clippers look. So, I mean, the Clippers are the opposite of the Nuggets, where they have just length on top of length on top of length.
Yeah. Danny Green is out for the rest of Game 6 already. Game started like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, that game already started?
He's going to get an MRI to discover the extent. That's bad. Jesus. Oh, Bryce Harper has a UCL tear.
No way.
He's going to be a DH, and he won't throw for 4 weeks.
Oh.
But
he hasn't thrown for a while.
Dang, that sucks.
I didn't realize this game. I thought it started at 5:30, but I guess 5.
Oh, dang. Huh. All right. Well, just getting back to it. I think there are 3 big questions for the Denver Nuggets this offseason. Do you give Will Barton 1 more year to kind of figure things out? Because, like we said, he was good at the beginning of the season, but as his role evolved, he started to decline in play, and his body started to decline with him being number 2 option offensively. So do you give him 1 more year? Do you trade your first-round pick? And who do you bring back out of your free agents? So first, do you give Will Barton 1 more year? I don't know. I don't know.
I say no. I mean, it's tough, but I mean, that's every year where he starts well and then he just breaks down towards the playoffs and he just gets exposed in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think you can have that. I mean, I think the last straw was the whole Wiggins box out and all that. Yeah. I just can't have him on my team. Like, the lack of effort. I mean, I guess you can give him until the deadline, but because I feel like, with the way he starts out seasons, like maybe his trade value goes up at the deadline. Mm-hmm. But I just don't feel comfortable throwing Will Barton out for another year.
Yeah, it's tough. I think last year he really started to get into a groove. Post All-Star break, him in that lineup with MPJ, Jamal, Gordon, and Jokic was perfect. It fit well defensively. It was great. But Will Barton, that whole season was used as a third, fourth option instead of a second option. So I think if you can just give his body some time to not have so much to do, I think he'll be good. I don't think defensively he's going to be good anymore. I don't think he'll have a start like he did last year. Um, but I think you probably just give him until the deadline to see how that group works. But if he can't play well at the deadline, you gotta get rid of him because the team does need a legit defender in that lineup. You need two competent, not too competent. You need two legit defenders in a starting lineup with three guys. Your main stars aren't very good defensively, so you do need help around there. I think Will fits with the team very well when healthy, but I just don't know. So I think this question actually plays in the next question. Do you give up that first round pick? I think if you trade Will Barton, I think you go all in and try and get somebody very good, and you will have to package that first round pick into a deal. So I think if you do give it up, it has to be for a borderline elite to elite wing defender, because I think you can still get someone pretty. You can get somebody who's going to play right away with that pick in this draft. But if you give it up, it's got to be for someone who is elite. That's just my opinion.
Right. No, I completely agree. I mean, yeah, I think you would kind of have to package that first round pick for a team to really take on Will Barton and his contract. He only has like one more. Yeah, he only has one more year on his contract, so it's an expiring deal for a team. So yeah, if you do trade Barton, I think you would have to attach that first round pick, and it does have to be for a defender.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll talk about some names later on, but we also need to bring back our own free agents too, with Forbes, Cousins, Rivers, Chanchar, Faku, both the Greens. I think, is it JaMychal that has the player option?
both of them have player options.
Oh, they both do. Okay.
Yeah.
Reed and then Howard. And yeah, this is what you wrote down, and I completely agree that the guys that I would definitely want to bring back are Cousins, Rivers. Rivers' defense, we didn't talk about him at all, but his defense was really spectacular against the Warriors and throughout the whole season, really as that point of attack defender. The problem is, like, he came off the bench, wasn't playing many minutes. So yeah, I mean, I would bring him back as a good defender off the bench and a good. I mean, I think he, like, if he didn't lead the league in corner 3-point shooting, I think he was like top 5
in attempts or percentage.
I
think the beginning of the season was really good. I don't know how, but I do remember something about him being very good at the corner threes because he got a lot of attempts from there. That was just the one problem with Rivers, that he was very inconsistent offensively. I remember he had a game against Brooklyn this season where he was just like, it looked like he was in high school again. Like, he was hitting everything. And you don't need him to do that every single game, but just hits 1 to 2 threes a game and he gives you that defense. That's exactly what Denver needs. So I would love to bring him back. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so then there's, I think, I would bring back JaMychal Green too, not Jeff Green. I think Jeff Green's age really started to catch up with him towards the latter half of the season, and that the whole playoff run, he was non-existent. But I like the toughness JaMychal brings you. His 3-point shot was getting back to what you would expect it to be towards the end of the season. So I think that's promising. And he's a decent interior defender in there too. So
yeah, I really like the combo with him and Cousins as the front court. I would like Zeke to be the future 4 or the future backup 4. I think he's perfect, but I don't know what happened with Zeke and his leg. Like, I don't know what was wrong with him. But I think if Jamaica Green declines his contract or declines his player option, which I don't think he will because of how bad he played this year, or at least how bad his stats look this season. He'll probably accept it. But if he declines, try and renegotiate for a smaller amount of money and bring him back, smaller average. DeMarcus Cousins and Rivers are going to be tough to bring back because of how well they played. So they're going to have pretty active markets. You are going to have, first dibs on them. You can negotiate contracts now because it's not tampering. So it'll be tough. Rivers said he would like to be back. Cousins doesn't really know what's going to happen with everything. But yeah, I think those two are the top priorities. And I think Davon Reed, he was on a 2-way contract. I think you got to bring him back. He probably should be the number one. Like if he's not on the roster next year, that is a huge failure because he brought everything that you needed. And I think you probably win a game with him in that Warriors lineup. Like if he's playing in some of those games, you win because
that was kind of, I don't know why they kept Campazzo on the team, and
it made no sense. Like, cause like if you cutting him saved money too. Like you literally saved money by cutting him, and that's not what they were thinking of. I think the reason why they didn't cut him is because they probably just didn't want have any bad blood with their European contacts, because we recruit so heavily in Europe and the EuroLeague and the Baltics and that area. So I think we probably just didn't want to screw any relationships up by cutting Facu right before a playoff run. But
yeah, that's fair. But just going against such a perimeter oriented.
Yeah, it made no sense.
Yeah,
it made no sense basketball wise.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I think Davon Reed's got to be on the team. He's a great shooter. As a primary defender, I think he showed flashes that he could be great. But as a secondary defender off the bench, he's perfect. He fits well with Jokic, which I think is the biggest thing. You can put him in, you can have him have spot starts. You can play Jokic with him together because he's such a good shooter. He moves well off the ball. So I think he's perfect. But Vlatko and Facu. Facu, there was no reason for him to be on the team after the All-Star break. Vlatko, the only reason why I think he might get a qualifying offer is just because he's such good friends with Jokic. Just he's a great locker room guy. So you kind of just need one of those people. And then Marcus Howard, I feel really bad for Marcus Howard because he was getting rotation minutes at the beginning of the season.
He was starting playoff games.
And he played playoff minutes last year and he played well. He played really well. And early in this season, he played really well. And then he got injured and he missed a lot of time. And just unfortunate reality of the NBA, he missed time. Someone else is going to take his spot. So I think there's a place in the NBA for Marcus Howard, but I don't know if he's going to get a shot for it. So
I don't know. He's a bucket. In college, I think he's the leading scorer ever in college basketball history.
I think by points per game, probably. I don't know if it's. I think is it still Doug McDermott as an all-time leading scorer? Was Doug McDermott ever the all-time leading scorer?
I don't know. Howard's up there. He's got the talent, but
he's definitely up there.
It is that harsh reality of he's too small and he can't defend. And in the NBA, unfortunately, his role really is just a spot up shooter who, can kind of get his own bucket off the dribble, but his lack of size really is harmful for him. But
he's gonna average 30 plus overseas. His highlights overseas are gonna make him look like Michael Jordan. It's gonna be insane.
Yeah. He's like Jimmer Fredette overseas probably.
Yeah, and that's not. We don't mean any hate towards Marcus Howard or anything. It's just he is extremely talented offensively, but he's just short. It's just very unfortunate.
Going one-on-one against anyone in the world. He can take.
He can get a bucket on anybody. But so I think that two-way spot probably should be used for someone who's a little more fitting towards the roster. And I think that's what the main goal of Denver should be. I think the last few seasons they have kind of loaded up on talent over fit. Sometimes it'll work. Last year it worked until Denver, everyone died because of their injuries.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this season, what you saw this season with the fit around the team, just talent doesn't really work. So I think you got to go for more fit. You got to use those two-way spots on some wing guys similar to Davon Reed. So we'll see what happens. But Marcus Howard, he was supposed to play in summer league and then he got COVID. Like he was going to play in summer league, and that would have been a huge opportunity for him to maybe get a full-time deal with somebody because he would have showed out in summer league. So just really, really unfortunate for him. But yeah, I think Cousins, Rivers, Jermichael Green, and Davon Reed. I think those are the four guys. You're not going to bring back all four. There's no way. At least one of those guys is going to sign somewhere else. But I think those four have to be your top guys on this team to bring back.
Yeah. And then getting into guys that could be possibilities for the Nuggets. They're, an unlikely, I guess, free agent for them to target is Bruce Brown. But his price tag, especially after this playoff run, is probably pretty hefty. So that would be tough to get him. But there's other guys, Gary Payton, PJ Dozier, we can bring back.
He has to come back. There's no way he's not going.
I know. It seems like it's kind of almost a guarantee that he's coming back. With how much he wants to be back. He's a free agent right now.
He was at Game 4.
Yeah.
He is working out in Nuggets clothing. Like if he still is in Denver. Like he still lives in Denver right now. Mm-hmm. So he's gonna be back. Like he has to be back. There's no way he's not.
Yeah. Gary Harris, another former Nugget, would be interesting. Nicholas Batum, Derek Jones, Kyle Anderson, all these guys just with length and with size. Chris Boucher, Jalen Smith, Taurean Prince, just kind of wings with size that I think could be good.
I think Wes Matthews has played really well.
Well, I mean, Derek White.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. You froze for a sec. Did you say anything?
Or whatever. No, I'm not really. I ended on. What did I end on? I ended on Taurean Prince.
I heard something about Prince? Derek White that you said.
Okay, I said I said a little bit about Derek White could be traded, but I don't know. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say Wes Matthews is a guy who I would like Denver to target. He was a guy. I mean, he signed with Milwaukee on a 10-day, and then he got a full-time deal. But he's been really good for them this season. Defensively, he's been great in both playoff series that they've had. And he is on the older side. He's going to be 36 next season, so he's going to be pretty old. But it hasn't stopped him this season yet. He's still shooting great from three-point range. That's what he's known for. And defensively, I think he'd be really good. But Milwaukee would be very dumb to not bring him back. But he would be a guy who I really like. Yeah. And then the backup center market, Denver still is going to be in the need for one. Like we mentioned, DeMarcus Cousins, but he's going to have other teams chasing after him. So we'll see how that works. But like Asher mentioned, Jalen Smith, he's a guy Denver was interested in the draft. And for some reason, Phoenix just did nothing with him, even though he played well when he got the opportunity. He's a 10th pick, and they just didn't do anything. Very odd situation. But he's a guy who I would think Denver, he's a good shot blocker, good rim protector. He can space the floor. Nick Claxton, I think he would be perfect off the bench. He's not a guy who's going to get you his own bucket, but he's a very good defender, very good lob threat.
His free throws would be.
His free throws are going to be rough. He's going to be Mason Plumlee, but worse.
Yeah.
But I think an athletic big man would be fun to have. We haven't had that since Plumlee. Dwayne Dedman, I think he'll probably stay with Miami, but a guy who I would think Denver would like to look at, a guy who can space the floor, who's a good defender. Naz Reid, I would love Naz Reid. Like he would be perfect, but once again, Minnesota would probably get him back. Hassan Whiteside, I would really like as a shot blocker, but
Whiteside played well this year.
We played well for Utah. And then some other guys who would be like extremely cheap, who I think Denver could get. Javon Carter, DeAndre Bembry, and John Conchar. There's a lot of guys from Memphis who I think could be had. Conchar is one of them. He's a good defender, and he shoots very well from three. Shot like 46% this season. So this is bench guys, really cheap. Denver can't afford like a lot. Like even Gary Payton is going to be probably tough to get. because they're going to be in the luxury tax next season. And then Jokic, with him signing a supermax, which is expected for the season after the 2023 season, then you're really, really tight in the tax. So they can't afford a lot. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Even some trade targets too. Derek White finished the season out pretty poorly with Boston. I guess they're still playing, but
yeah,
he hasn't played very well since he got to Boston. So he could be maybe a trade candidate. That's a guy that every Nuggets fan was looking at the trade deadline as kind of the dream scenario. Royce O'Neal, he also finished his season really bad with Utah. I don't know. I don't know if I would want him because I know his defense really fell off a lot, especially during the playoffs. He's getting exposed by Luka and Brunson, and his shooting fell off a little bit. But I mean, he does have that length, and that's what we're looking for is the length.
And O'Neal's unlikely because I don't think Utah's going to trade one of Gobert or Mitchell this offseason. Like, it has to happen. There's no way they don't. But they're not going to trade both of them. So they're probably going to keep their better role players like Clarkson, like Mike Conley, like Royce O'Neal. So it would be unlikely. But if you could somehow finesse a 3-team deal where you can get a Royce O'Neal out of it, I think that would be good. But like, because he's a lengthy guy. Normally he plays pretty good defense. He's a great shooter. But yeah, that's why he's unlikely because I don't know what Utah's going to do in the offseason.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, these guys, Marcus Smart's a long shot, considering he just won the Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
You never know. I feel like one of these guys, like Derek White or Marcus Smart or maybe like Grant Williams, I don't know, just one of these guys off Boston could be had, I guess. They just have so many of kind of the same player.
Someone had like it's just Boston, Memphis are pretty similar. Yeah. They have a lot of really good guys on their team who are going to be up for contracts. So they're going to have to trade some of them because they don't want to lose them for nothing. So I think a guy like Marcus Smart or Derek White could definitely be had for the right price. It just depends on what that is. So you're going to have to give up a first for either of them, but I think it's worth it.
Dylan Brooks is there too. A lot of Will Barton offensively. Probably worse than Will Barton offensively with the hero ball and everything, but he does bring good defense. I think he's a decent, even with that disgusting shot, I think he's a decent spot up shooter.
He's okay. Like, I saw one thing that a Memphis fan posted when he is like the fourth option. So like when his usage percentage is like less than 20 or something. He's actually a pretty efficient scorer, which, makes sense. He's taking less shots. He's missing less shots. But I think he'd fit pretty well. But if Denver fans thought Will Barton did hero ball, holy cow, they're going to want Dylan Brooks out by the first preseason game because he, like that man that has no conscience, whether he's good or bad, he will be chucking. He is a better defender, much better defender. He's younger. He might be a little more expensive than Will Barton, but you'd be able to have him for a longer time. So I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting. But like, man, if Denver fans thought Barton was bad, man, Dylan Brooks is another level of that type of hero ball syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, there's other guys. Josh Richardson, Matisse Thybulle, maybe Anthony Melton, another Memphis guy. KCP, he was another trade deadline candidate. I think he would fit really well with Denver. Just straight up replacing Will Barton at that spot. Nerlens Noel, good defensive backup center. Just more Memphis guys. Like one of these guys has to.
One of them has to be good.
I mean, one or two. Brandon Clark, Xavier Tillman.
Yeah.
Justin Holiday was another trade deadline guy. And then Brogdon and Hield with the Pacers probably blowing it up soon.
Yeah. And I put all these trade targets like pretty much immediately after the Nugget season ended. So like Brandon Clark was the best Memphis Grizzlies player in their series against Minnesota, and he's been very good against Golden State. So he probably won't go anywhere. Melton didn't play against Minnesota, but he's playing against Golden State and he's playing well. So we'll see what happens. And Tillman, played early on in this series, but he hasn't lately. So it's just weird. But somebody from Memphis has to get traded. Someone's gone. They don't have enough money for all of them. Ja's getting an extension this season. Are you going to pay Dylan Brooks? What happens with Jaren Jackson? You have to think about all these things.
I mean, it's very similar to the Nuggets of a few years ago, where it's like Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt weren't getting any playing time.
Yeah.
I mean, Hernan Gomez, just too much depth.
Yeah.
And I mean, you gotta, Denver traded 2 of those guys. I feel like Memphis kind of has to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I
think Thibault is a candidate to be traded. Sixers fans seem to very much not like him. He does seem to be bad offensively. Jokic can make everybody good, but like I've seen some clips of him and he's guarded like Facu. Like he's legitimately not guarded at all. He's in the corner and his man is up at the key. So like that's going to be an issue. But defensively, I mean, he made the all defense team last year and he played 20 minutes a game. So that should tell you how good he is. TCP is a guy who I think is really interesting because I think there is a trade that works where Denver gives up Will Barton, Monte Morris, which would be but he has an extremely tradable contract, and with how good Bones played, I feel like it's possible. So it'd be Will, Monte, probably another younger player like Zeke, and then that first round pick, and you get back KCP, and then maybe Kyle Kuzma or like Rui Hachimura, who hasn't played well.
If you could get Kuzma out of that,
like that's what Kuzma is probably a long shot, but like KCP and then another wing guy. Right. I think Rui Hachimura would be the more likely guy because he didn't play early in the season. He didn't play very well in the season. I would assume they would want to get that money to Kuzma or somebody instead of Hachimura. So, but yeah, I think a trade like that would be very, very good for Denver.
Because Avdia is there too, but he's still. I don't think he's still very young. I don't think.
Yeah, a lot of Nuggets fans are saying that Lou Dort could be had. I would love Lou Dort.
I mean, I would.
I don't know why. Like financially, it makes sense because Dort is going to cost a lot of money, but they have a lot of young guards. They have Trey Mann who played really well. You have Giddey. You have a lot of other rookies. You have this upcoming pick who you're going to have to pay. So I don't know. I don't know if Lou Dort is on the trading block. The way Thunder fans speak about him, I would doubt it because he's an elite defender and he has grown into a very good offensive player the last 2 seasons. So he would be perfect, like actually the perfect guy, but I don't think there's any way that
that would be tough to pull off. Sam Presti is going to want like 4 picks.
Yeah, like it would be tough. I think there are some people on I think like Kendrick Williams, I think would be a more realistic guy from OKC's roster you could trade for. He's a free agent or he's under contract for next season. He's cheap. He's probably going to cost a first rounder. That's what they wanted at the deadline for him. So if you're willing to give up a first rounder for him, go for it. Mike Muscala is another guy who is another vet on that team who could go. But those are the only other guys. Like I don't think anybody else on OKC is going to get traded. And that includes Lou Dort. I think because he fits a timeline. So he's only like 22, 23. He fits their timeline very well. They're going to be able to pay him. So it's just interesting to think about that. But I don't think he's going to be had.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess that's with Robert Covington's. I saw, what did he get, like $12 million a year?
Yeah, I thought he was going to get way more than that.
I did too. I thought like I was saying like, oh, if Denver can get him for like $12 million a year, that would be
like a steal.
Yeah, and that's what the Clippers gave him, but. Unfortunately, he's not an option anymore. I guess if we want to talk about a little bit of these current playoffs going on, and then we can close out this episode and I can eat dinner and stuff. But Sixers and Heat is playing right now. And I mean, just like James Harden has just been disappointing once again in the playoffs.
Yeah.
His playoff career has been bad, and I think it's just completely just inexcusable to be this bad and to like with Embiid, with how hurt he is with the thumb, with the face. I mean, Harden's got to be better. I think he's got to start chucking more shots.
Yes, just shoot. Like he shot like in game 4. I think
he literally just made a 3 right now.
I think it was it game 4 when he had 31, or was it game 3? I think it was game 4. He had 31. And he had like 16 in the fourth quarter. Like that was the James Harden that Philly needs, especially with how hurt Embiid is. Like that is, you need to be able to. You need to just shoot. Like you were never an efficient player. Don't try to be one now. You were a guy who's gonna shoot and get his no matter what. So shoot and get yours no matter what. That's how you're gonna win. And you can't say that it wasn't a winning formula in Houston, because they were 1 win away from the finals with that exact formula when he won the MVP like that. So
yeah, like, I mean, I liked how he was playing when Embiid was healthy and when Embiid was scoring. When James Harden first came to Philly, I mean, he had like 16 assists that first game, I think, against New York. And I love the way he was playing there, but with how Embiid is, struggling with all these injuries in the playoffs, like Harden's got to take over.
He has to step up. He has to.
But the Heat of Harden 2 in a row, 3 right now. So
there we go.
Here you go. Listen to us. But the Heat have looked really good. Jimmy Butler has probably been the best player in these playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's him or Giannis, and I mean, I don't know. I feel like Jimmy's played better with considering efficiency and stuff.
Yeah, he's been incredible.
And the Heat look great. I mean, they have so many great role players. Gabe Vincent, PJ Tucker has been amazing.
Max Strus leads the playoffs in plus minus.
Yeah, they're not even playing Duncan Robinson, which they probably should. With, I mean, I don't know, but they hadn't been shooting well before last game, so
yeah.
I
think Miami's been really they have played much better than I thought they had. They would have
played much better than everyone thought.
It all starts with Jimmy. I don't think anyone expected Jimmy to play this well. They're doing all this without Kyle Lowry. He's out today. He was out the last game. He's been out every game they've won, very coincidentally.
Maybe not coincidentally.
Maybe not. He's been pretty bad in the playoffs. But when Kyle Lowry is healthy, he played very well in the regular season. But Jimmy's really taken it to another level. Tyler Hero's been great. Bam is, I mean, I don't know, like Joel Embiid is such a better player than Bam.
Bam's defense has been good, but
his defense has been very good.
Yeah,
offensively, I don't know what to think of him, because I think that bubble run showed that he has the potential to be very good offensively, but he has not taken a leap.
I know, like that. The shot looks smooth.
He has to expand to the 3-point line. He has to.
Yeah.
Because, and the other thing, he doesn't shoot. He only shoots on like a pick and pop situation, like a mid pick and pop situation from the free throw line or just inside of it. He doesn't shoot mid ranges by himself. He doesn't do any isolation stuff, which is like, I don't know. It looks like he's just like a rookie at this point. Like his offensive game has stayed the exact same. So I don't know what to think of him. Defensively, he's incredible. He's the most versatile big defensively in the NBA, but offensively, he has to take a step up for the Miami to actually be a championship contender.
Yeah. But yeah, they played really well.
Yeah.
The other Eastern playoff series, the Bucks and the Celtics. Bucks are up 3-2. This has been a super fun series to watch.
Yeah.
Looking forward to tomorrow's game. I think they play tomorrow. And just, you got to give Giannis credit with how no Middleton. I thought the Celtics were going to win the series as soon as Middleton went out. And I thought they were going to win it, pretty easily, considering what they did to KD. And that's what's been really impressive with Giannis is like just what they did to KD compared to what Giannis is doing now. I mean, he's probably averaging like 35. The efficiency is very poor. Which, like, all this GOAT Giannis stuff, like, I don't know. We need to kind of relax on this. I know he puts up great numbers and he's a great defender and all that, but he misses
the efficiency, because Boston is still getting a lot of stops on him. Like, he's playing phenomenal, and he was like the reason that he had 40 last time, pretty good efficiency, but like he's shooting 51% in this series for a guy who really.
I mean, his true shooting, I think, is like 55%.
It's 55, yeah, which is not that good. For a guy who really only just is in the paint primarily. I know he's been expanding. He had a big three in the last game, but his efficiency is a problem.
I think he's like,
and his efficiency is a problem, but it's mostly because Boston is playing very good defense on him. Grant Williams, I don't understand how, but he's been playing very good defense, despite being pretty undersized. Al Horford looks like a max contract player right now.
Yeah, he's been great.
He's been so good for them. So it's but he's like, the fact that Boston was able to completely shut down Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and now, I mean, Giannis is the one consistent offensive option, and he's still getting his despite him having the full attention on him.
Yeah, I mean, you consider how bad Jrue Holiday has played off. He's another guy where it's like he has like no conscience. I'm like, shot like the Milwaukee game that Boston won with Al Horford going off. Like Jrue Holiday attempted like 35 shots or something.
It's insane. I don't know. Like, I get he has to be the number 2 option, but
horrible shots too. It was like ISO mid ranges against Marcus Smart where he barely even looks at the rim. He just like throws it up. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I think Jrue Holiday would be like a smarter person than that.
It's so
weird. So considering how bad he's played offensively, considering no Middleton, just the playmaking load that Giannis has had to take on, and his defense has been great. So yeah, he's been amazing. Tatum has not been really. His efficiency has been bad. So yeah, that was kind of the thing with Boston, I guess, is like they have those two guys with Brown and Tatum, but they're still pretty inconsistent on a game-to-game basis.
Yeah.
Where it's like Jaylen Brown can make 5 threes in a game, and then the next game he'll shoot like, 1 for 8 from 3. And it's kind of the same thing with Tatum. Like you'll look up and you'll be like Tatum's like 5 for 16 from the field. And it can continue to get worse from there. So yeah, with those guys, that was kind of the concern, I guess, with Boston, is like those are the two reliable options, and they're on a game-to-game basis, they're not really reliable. But
yeah, and they don't have a third reliable guy either.
Yeah, I mean, like Horford has been that guy, and he's been great.
But but like it shouldn't be Al Horford. Like Marcus Smart should, normally be the third guy. Like that's who it should be. But he obviously has not. He had offensively, he's not been very good. It's just, Boston, that's their I think that is the biggest issue, is their offensive consistency. Defensively, I think they're fine. They're doing as much as they can on Giannis, and they're playing as physical as possible on Giannis, and Giannis is, reciprocating that. And I think they're playing really good defense on everybody else. Like Bobby Portis, efficiency-wise, has been pretty bad, but he's making the big plays when they count. Jrue Holiday, efficiency-wise, been pretty bad, but he's making the big plays.
Still got guys. Pat Connaughton in the corner.
Yeah.
Threes. Grayson Allen has been hitting his threes, so they've still got guys. What was I gonna say? I forget, but I was gonna say the Celtics probably should have won that game 5.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, not even probably, like they should have. I mean, Giannis missing the free throw, but even before that, there was like a 6-point lead after that Horford dunk.
Mm-hmm.
Giannis went down, made a 3, and then Holiday, jacked up a shot and it went in.
Because Jrue Holiday also shot exactly what you're saying, like a mid-range shot with Marcus Smart on him. Like I literally, as he shot, I was like, "What are you doing? like why?" He was like, it was like 1 foot inside the arc too. It's like a horrible shot.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
The next couple possessions, like he makes a 3.
Yeah. He makes a 3, and then it makes the 2 biggest defensive players of the year. It's just like, all right.
Yeah. And then it's like, okay, there's Jrue Holiday.
That's the Jrue Holiday experience right there.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, after Giannis's missed free throw, they don't box out Bobby Portis. He gets it, and then when Marcus Smart is your main ball handler, that's kind of another issue with Boston.
They don't have a point guard. Yeah.
Yeah, Marcus Smart is I guess, has taken over that point guard role, and he,
Monte Morris. I think Monte Morris is a great point guard, Boston. I think you guys could really use him. I think he would be a great starting point guard.
Baku?
No, Monte.
Monte, yeah. I think Baku would be great off the bench for Boston.
Yeah, it'd be phenomenal. Sign and trade for Derek White. Let's do it.
Yeah. Because the Boston fans hate Derek White, so.
Hey, Colorado fans would never turn on Derek White. Never.
Yeah. We love Monte Morris. They hate Derek White. I think it's a fair trade.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, I don't know who wins the series. I guess Milwaukee, just because that 3-2 lead is.
They just have the momentum right now.
Tough. Yeah, and they go back home. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I think, I mean, it really does just depend on if Tatum, because he hasn't had one of those games where he's just unstoppable offensively.
Yeah.
So,
if he has a game like that in Game 6, I think Boston wins. But if he is, shooting 10 for 24 like he has the last few games, then I don't know. It's going to be tough for Boston to win. Like, they have the momentum. This seems eerily similar to the finals last season. Like, Phoenix should have won Game 5, and then Drew Holiday makes an insane defensive play at the end to win it. And then they go into Game 6 with all the momentum while being the underdog. So it'll be interesting. I think Milwaukee wins. That championship DNA, the championship defense that they have is legit, and that's like a real thing, and it's showing off in these games.
Moving on to the Western Conference, Suns and Mavs. This has been all these series have been pretty good. And I wasn't expecting Dallas to really be competitive in this game, but I also do feel like it's been, pretty lucky considering Dorian Finney-Smith with the 8 threes, paired along with Chris Paul fouling out in like 20 minutes. So that was, I guess kind of a lucky game for Dallas. And interestingly enough, they have played better when Luka plays worse. It's weird, but I just think with his kind of the style, like, it's very James Harden Houston like, which was his comparison coming out of the draft, and it looks pretty accurate, I would say. But like his heliocentric style of play, kind of like does require Finney-Smith and does require, Kleba to really knock down those threes and to have 8 threes in order to win games. Like the Mavs offense is just Luka and Brunson creating advantages on offense and them passing it out to shooters and stuff. But just with the way like Luka plays, I don't know.
I get what you're saying. I think that's more of like the roster problem and Jason Kidd not knowing how to have an offense problem. Because like if you do watch like Mavs games, like Luka and Brunson are the only guys who initiate offense. But like there are no plays. Like if they were the ones initiating the offense and running, sets and actions and actual things to get other people open, I think that would be fine. But like there is no plays. It's just Luka getting a pick and roll, getting a switch, driving by, or stepping back for a 3 or kicking to a corner. Like that is their entire offense. Yeah. And I think that's all that they like. If that is their offense, that's all they can do because they don't have a true second star. Like Brunson has been great, but I don't think he's a true secondary star. Like I don't think he's a true number 2. So
I feel like they just need, like, it is like back to the Harden thing when they got Chris Paul. Like it feels like Luka being playmaker and all that, but he is kind of more of a scorer, like firsthand, and he's inefficient like Harden was. Like he takes all those threes and then he goes 1 for 10 in game.
Yeah.
Whatever
they need a second offensive star.
Yeah.
And this offseason is going to be big for them. Like I think Phoenix wins tonight. But I think that Dallas, they're going to have a big decision to make. It's, do you go after a legit center or do you go after a true second star? So it's going to be interesting to see.
I mean, this kind of style of play hasn't really, except for LeBron James, who, is a great outlier.
It's LeBron, yeah.
Probably the greatest player of all time. Like, this kind of style of play from perimeter players
doesn't work.
Yeah, in the playoffs. Because it's pretty easy to defend in the playoffs.
It's extremely predictable. Extremely predictable. And that's why Denver lost. Like, their offense is just, all right, give it to Jokic and just let him, do whatever. But like, without a second guy, without a true secondary dude, it's hard. And Denver won game 4 with Monte Morris scoring 20 points, Bones Highland having 15 points, Aaron Gordon having 20 points. Like, you need other guys to be there. You need consistent production from a secondary star. Dallas just doesn't have that. They also don't have a rim protector. So I think it'll be interesting. Do they go all in to get Rudy Gobert? Or do they go and get Bradley Beal, or do they go and get somebody else, Donovan Mitchell? I don't know.
Yeah, so I wouldn't compare Jokic's like game, I guess, to Luka's.
No, it's different. I was just comparing like.
No. I get but it is like interesting because we've been saying and stuff that everything does flow through Jokic, but it's not Jokic
initiating everything
there on the perimeter dribbling for 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's him, working in the post. Like, Jokic does so much off-ball stuff to get open with the cuts.
They run so many cross-screen actions to get him balls in the post. He'll set screens and be the roll man.
Whereas you look at Luka, when Luka doesn't have the ball, he just stands there. He stands in the corner and just waits for the ball.
Yeah.
And that, Harden obviously doesn't work off ball. So, yeah, it's tough to win playoff series like that. When there is just that guy on that team, and then you look at Chris Paul coming to Houston, you get a second star, and you should have gone to the finals. You're 27 missed threes away from going to the finals or whatever that was.
And coincidentally, they're up 3-2 when Chris Paul plays. He misses those last 2 games and they lose. So like you need a secondary star. You need another ball handler. No, I don't even know if you need a ball handler. You just need a second score, so that Luka has pressure taken off of him. And he doesn't have to do that the whole game, and the offense is less predictable. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see who they go and get. There are people available, whether it's Bradley Beal or somebody, whether it's I don't know. I don't like Bradley Beal is one guy who I think would make sense, but they already did a big trade with Washington, so I don't know if they'll want to go after another one.
But I mean, credit, I guess, to them getting this far, because I didn't even really think that they would get this far. But
both of us picked Utah to win. We assumed that.
Yeah, but that Utah perimeter defense was.
Oh my! It was so much worse than I thought. Like, Jalen Brunson averaged 28 a game in that series. Really?
Look at Phoenix, and Jalen Brunson hasn't done anything.
Oh my God! I was both. Well, one thing is both of us thought Luke would be out for the whole series, and he came back game 4. So that was one thing. But the other thing is, like, man, Utah's defense was bad. It was so bad. Like, they were up 2-1 without Luka. And I'm like, this is insane. It's just ridiculous.
All right. Warriors, Grizzlies, last playoff series we'll talk about, and then we'll wrap it up. Obviously, Ja Morant out for the season, probably.
Yeah.
If the Grizz make it past the Warriors. And I mean, the Warriors are just, I think they were just extremely gassed just with how small they are, not having an actual center on the roster. They rely on 2 rookie contracts heavily to play well.
Yeah.
Especially Jordan Poole. If Jordan Poole doesn't play well, it's tough for them to win. And then they're starting Kuminga in most games. So, that's kind of a weird roster formation, but I just think with how small they are, they can get worn down pretty easily. And I think that's what showed in game, whatever this game was, 5.
I think as much as Denver got, blown out in those first 2 games, I think in the last 3 games of the series against the Warriors, they showed a formula against that death lineup, which is why they haven't played it a lot. They showed that you can win with size. Like, you can legitimately win with size if you show effort on the boards. Draymond's going to be on one guy. You're going to have Wiggins on another guy. If one more guy comes on, it's going to be Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, or Jordan Poole guarding you. Like, you are going to be able to get offensive rebounds. You're going to be able to use your size to your advantage. And I think Denver really showed that. And I think the Warriors are, they should have lost game 4, being honest. They should have lost game 1, for being honest.
Yeah.
And That's just the Grizzlies being a young team, not knowing how to deal with playoff atmospheres like this, which is okay. I mean, they're extremely young, but like I think the Warriors, they're beatable. They're 100% beatable, and I think Memphis has a chance to beat them because of how well they play without Ja.
Yeah,
and, it's tough. It's gonna be tough for the Warriors to close this out. Like I'm being legit serious because of how big Memphis plays.
Yeah, I think that they do ultimately close it out. I think that the blowout was kind of a blessing in disguise, rather than
they
losing
get rest. Yeah,
game. Exactly, you get rest rather than losing a close game, which is more demoralizing than a blowout. I think because the Warriors, I feel like they just know, like, all right, we just played horrible. Like, we'll come back. Whereas if it was a close game, like let's say that they lost game 4 and game 1 or something, like that is demoralizing because you played well, you played right up with them, and then you lose, and then this blowout happens. So that would be demoralizing. But I think, with the rest that they get going back to their home arena, I think that they do ultimately close it out. But the Warriors are definitely beatable. The perimeter defense isn't that great, which I think that the Suns can really, CP3, Devin Booker can take advantage of. There is no one on the perimeter that Denver could throw out there and take advantage of. Whereas you look at, Ja Morant has been averaging like 35 points or something when he plays, because he gets in that lane so easily. When Poole's guarding him, or when Curry's defense is improved, but
you can't put him on the star.
And Klay Thompson's defense has regressed. So the perimeter defense is, combined with the lack of size, which the Suns have both, and on the offensive end, I think it's going to be tough for the Warriors to beat the Suns.
If the Warriors are able to close this out, I think the Suns have another pretty easy path to the finals. They match up very well with the Warriors. Now, Warriors also offensively match up pretty well against Golden State, or against Phoenix, because like Phoenix, they have Bridges, but outside of Bridges, they don't have a reliable defender. Chris Paul has been a reputation defender over the past, ever since he got out of Houston. He's been a reputation defender. Like, he's okay, but he's not a guy who you can put on, a Steph Curry and expect him to lock him down anymore. So I think it'll be some fireworks, but Phoenix is deeper. Phoenix is, I think, better coached. They have the size advantage. They have the perimeter advantage. So I think they'll win, but it'll be interesting.
They have the length to.
They have the length too. That's the biggest thing.
To stop Draymond's passing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, God, after that game 5, it's like I don't even think Draymond deserves to be facilitating that offense anymore. Like, I mean, it was bad. And that's 2 games in a row where the offense has just been horrendous with Draymond facilitating. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it will be tough to close them out. I just think, that game 4 really showed it without Ja, without anyone to get you a clutch bucket.
Yeah. With Dillon Brooks being so efficient, they don't have anybody. Like Dillon Brooks, you give him the ball and say, "Hey, go get a bucket." He'll try at least. Like he'll do his best. But if he's as inefficient as he was, you don't have anybody who's consistent enough to get you a bucket.
But all these series have been great. I'm looking forward to all of them. The playoffs have been fun. Kyrie Irving streams have been fun too.
That's hilarious. The Broncos schedule just was announced. I'll just say it here, and then we'll talk about the Broncos later, not now. But Monday night. Oh yes, with the first Monday night game. Yes.
Yeah, we are against Seattle. We got 5 primetime games.
Ooh.
Tied for the most in the NFL.
Nice. So it's at Seattle on Monday night to open it up. Then Houston is the home opener. Then at home Sunday night against San Francisco. That's going to be a really good game. Away against the Raiders. Home against the Colts, which is Thursday night. And then away against the Chargers, which is Monday night. Oh, that'll be nice. It's a long break between games. Then at home against the Jets. In London against Jacksonville, and then you get a bye after that. Jacksonville game is huge because it's an away game normally, so it doesn't affect your home games, which is huge in the extended year. Then away against the Titans, second half of the season is pretty tough. Like this looks horrible after the bye week. You go away against the Titans, home against the Raiders, away against the Panthers, away against the Ravens, at home against the Chiefs on Sunday night, at home against the Cardinals, then away against the Rams on Christmas, away against the Chiefs, and then at home against the Chargers to close it out.
You go Raiders, whatever, Panthers, but Ravens, Chiefs, Cardinals, Rams, Chiefs, Chargers.
That's tough.
I don't understand why they always put the 2 Chiefs games in like the last like 5 weeks.
Yeah, like really close to each other. That's odd. Man, that last 6 weeks, holy cow. Those are going to be the games that prove if Denver's a Super Bowl contender. If they're able to go like 4-2 in those last 6, I think they're a Super Bowl contender. But if they struggle in those games, oh Lord, it's going to be a tough postseason. Yeah, finally inching closer and closer to the football season. Jerry Jeudy got arrested today, which is
there you go.
Disappointing, but getting closer. Yeah, I think that is it for today. We will. I don't know what our schedule is going to be. I think we're kind of still figuring out what's going to go on, but good recap of Nugget season. We'll keep everything updated when stuff happens. Yeah, thanks for watching. Peace.